Greetings and peace from throughout the boundless universes. I advise you liked last night's math session, last shadow hour. This midnight session, we will solve one of the major paradoxes in mathematics. Get your people, pencils, and ready. We're about to do some math.
Thank you. Well, we did last night's session. It was pretty good. We talked about a lot of things. We wanted to come to y'all this shadow hour about math, midnight math. Midnight math, we call this session. Thank y'all for coming on. That's really too little for me to read. Let's see, Beth. What she say?
Just people coming in.
Okay. Yeah.
Anu Royal, Johnny Rambo, Jesse Taylor. Hey, y'all.
Yeah. So we won't really get it really popping until some more people come in. And we know we can rebroadcast, but we haven't even done that yet with the first session.
They took it out. They took the first video out. You had to repost it.
Okay.
So powerful mathematics.
Yeah. So that was strange. But anyway, we back at it again, and we wanted to talk to y'all about some paradoxes in mathematics. Well, one in particular, we talked about some last shadow hour, but a lot of these paradoxes and things have kind of befuddled people in mathematics. And one of them we talked about last shadow hour was by a man named Kurt Gödel. Another paradox is one where you can take a sheet of paper, and on one side of the sheet of paper, yeah, you want to do it for us? Yeah, that'd be great. You do one there, and I'll do one on the board.
Okay.
Let's talk louder so they can hear us. Y'all tell us if we loud enough or if we too low.
So we're going to take this sheet of paper and we're going to fold it.
Yes.
Into pieces. Fold it in half and get straight so they can see it.
Yes.
Okay. And I'm going to write on this side.
Yes. Fold it again in 4 pieces.
Okay, in 4 pieces.
We're going to fold it into quarters. And we're doing that for a specific reason. Because in their paradox, in their paradigm, they'll teach that this sheet of paper should be one sheet of paper. And you will write a statement on this side of the sheet of paper, and you will write a statement on the other side of the sheet of paper. And when you do those two things, that will be the paradox. However, as you see, Bastet has folded this paper in half. And that's for a reason.
Let's go back to camera too close. Yeah.
Okay, because that's for a reason. Because you have a singularity and you have a duality. So basically what we're turning this paper into is into a quantum answer for what they call one side of the paper and then the other side of the paper they write a statement on. So we are folding this paper in half, and then we are folding it again into quarters. And then we are going to write the statement on this paper, and you can do the same. We're going to go real slow, and it's going to be very simple, but it's a very complex answer, so we're going to go real slow. So here we go. So Basset is going to write the first statement, and we'll phrase the first statement. Everything
I need another pen.
Okay. Gotta get another pen. Okay. Go ahead, take it down. You do. We got time. Cause we want to go slow. Okay, so.
Everything.
Yeah. Everything on the other side, and we could have said the opposite side, but we're going to use other side. But those things matter when we're talking about a paradox and wording, and it's worded both ways, and they use those words interchangeable. So I want to point out that fact that the word other side is the opposing side or opposite side. So everything on the other side of this paper is true. So that's the first side of the paper.
Everything on the other side of this paper is true.
So that's just one side of the paper. Now, what I want you to do first, write that statement again on this paper, and then just put it on one side so they can see how they would do it.
Okay.
We're going to give you an example of how it will look in the way that they have it when they say this paradox. We're going to put it on paper the way they would have it, and then we're going to show you the way it should be. So Beth said, writing out the same statement on another sheet, a separate sheet, and it reads, everything on the other side of this paper is true. So now, on the back side of this paper, so now write the same statement except for ended in false. Everything on the other side of this paper is false.
Okay. So on this side, it says
it reads
everything on the other side of this paper is false.
And on the front side?
And on the front side, we have everything on the other side of this paper is true.
So that's the front and back. That's the total paradox. This is the complete paradox that you have right there on this sheet right here. This is the complete paradox that you have. Everything on this side of the paper is true, and everything on the other side of the paper is false. So it's obvious by reading that we have an issue. We have a problem. Because one side says true, one side reads true, the other side reads false. So we have to figure out this paradigm. And one way of doing that, we'll use mathematics to solve this riddle. So we took the same one sheet of paper, and instead of writing it on a side or one full side of a sheet, we wrote it on 1/4 of a sheet. And so the next side, we'll write this statement, and the statement will be false. So if you want, you could write the next statement right there.
Write it on this side.
Yes.
Other side of this paper is false.
Yeah. Everything on the other side of this paper is false. Oh, man. So it's just a paradox. And so Bastet has written a paradox here. So here we are. We have everything on this side of the paper is true, and everything on this side of the paper is false. So now that's what you showed.
Mm-hmm. Yes, they see.
Okay, so now the first thing I want to do, since this is indigenous, aesthetic, mathematics, and linguistics. Let's say that again. This is indigenous, aesthetics, mathematics, and linguistics. So this is a linguistic paradox, a part of mathematics. Because it is very paradox, there exists something called an incompleteness theorem. And I said it very fast last shadow hour, but I want to point out that a theorem for us is a form of magic. Is and I'm not saying that theories and theorems aren't tested, but in cases like this, a theorem is a spell. So before we learn how to read, write, or spell, we first learn to speak. So I'll try to remember. Read. Oh, I almost spelled read wrong. Read, write, and spell. Before we learn how to do that, before we learn how to do any of that, now that's how quantum works. So we're about to write speak here. Speak. Now, look at these four words. Read, write, spell, and speak. The first is speak. The second is read. Third is write. And fourth is spell. And a spell is a spell. A spell cast, like a theorem. So what takes place is that this 1, 2, 3, 4 is what we call tetrahedral thinking or quantum thinking. It's the same thing as a tetrahedron. When you look at a tetrahedron like this, it's this type of thinking. It's thinking in 1, 2, 3, and there's a base 4. So it's tetrahedral thinking, thinking in 4 instead of just 1, 2, 3 or 2, 3, 4. You see? And in our mathematics, we'll do some corrections. And we'll come along and we'll do this. We will have 0, 1, 2, 3. And that would be the correct spelling in mathematics and linguistics. So now, things like this is what you have to know. Notice we folded our sheet into 4 parts. And they only have 2 sides, binary. So when they think of the paradox, they only think of it in these 2 ways. But you have to break the paradox up a little bit. You have to realize that in the speech of the paradox, it reads everything on the other side of this paper is true. So then they claim this is a statement. First of all, they claim this is a statement. So let's look at the word statement. State and meant. So this state is the plane or the dimension that we're talking about. In other words, one side of the paper is the plane. One side of the paper is the dimension. So this statement on one side of the paper is a state. So we know the state. We're going to explain the state and the meant, which is the condition. Just like the old song, the old school singers went meant condition. That's right, statement. States and condition. So you have statement. This will be the state of the sheet of paper, and this is going to be the condition of the sheet of paper. So now, once we clear that up, we can go ahead on and we're going to write a statement on this side of the paper. On this blank side, opposite this side. And really, that would be not really opposite, because this is 4 pieces. We're going to write it down below. So it's really going to be down below the other statement. So now, let's do it. It's really going to be down below the other statement. So Bassett is about to write the next statement. Okay, so the next statement will read, everything on the other side of this paper is true. So then, now, first we want to establish that the word everything, there is nothing on the other side of the paper. There is not even a full statement on the other side of the piece of paper. So we can't determine if there's anything on the other side of the piece of paper until we turn it over. And this is the point of quantum mechanics, physics, computing, and processing. This is the reason for breaking the paper up into 4 equal parts, to create this type of thinking. Because now we can write on the bottom sheet, we can write nothing. On the opposite side of this paper is false. And on this side, we can write the same statement.
Just want to show, just right here. Nothing on the opposite side of this paper is false. And we'll write down here the next statement.
Nothing on the opposite side of this paper is true.
On the opposite side of this paper it's true?
It's false. Right? It's true, okay. Yeah, it's true. Yeah.
Okay.
So wait, you got it is true. It is true. Okay. Yeah, man, speak up. So people can hear
so
you
here
now.
we have it on 4 sides. This side right here says nothing on the opposite side of this paper is true. And this side right here says nothing on the opposite side of this paper is false.
Absolutely. So now, if we were to analyze, you can hold it up, babe. Oh, I'm not going to be in the camera that much. I'm going to let the paper and the writing do the talk. And I'll leave Bastet, pretty face, beautiful face, in that camera, right there. Yeah. So now, the way this goes is, everything on the other side of this paper is true. Everything on the other side of this paper is true. So if we look at the other side of this paper, we can see that everything on the other side of this paper is false. So the paradox that's put in a person's mind is that this person has got to be telling a lie, and this person has got to be telling a lie, or this person has to be telling the truth, or this person has to be telling the truth, or both of them are telling the truth, or both of them are lying. So we have a lot of answers. It's tantamount to the Matrix, when Morpheus presented the red pill, I get that, the red pill and the blue pill to Neo. Now, Neo could have taken the blue pill, or Neo could have taken the red pill, or Neo could have taken both pills, or Neo could have taken no pill. So that's 4 ways of looking at that. And that's how all things are in quantum science. Quantum thinking, tetrahedral thinking, quantum processing. So that's the way everything is done in our mode of thinking. So now, I did this deliberately. I could have flip-flopped these 2 statements, but I wanted to be clear for the people how 2 statements linguistically can be mathematically the same, but yet state a positive on one side and a negative on the other. But they be equal, but not the same. For instance, instead of going this way, we're going to go this way with our comparison. So let's do it. Everything on the other side of this paper is true. Nothing on the opposite side of this paper is false. So these 2 would agree. Even though this one ends in the false and this one ends in the true, these 2 statements are the same. They would agree. Nothing on the opposite side of this paper is false. So this saying that everything over here is true. And this says everything on the other side of this paper is true. So this saying everything over here is true. So this statement is saying that everything over here is true, and this statement is saying that everything over here is true. Even though this one is false, and even though this one is true. So if we were to read this side, everything on the other side of this paper is false. It's stated that this statement is false. And if this statement is false, then this statement couldn't be true about this statement being true. So thus the paradox. So let's compare these 2 now. Everything on the other side of this paper is false. So this statement says that everything over here is false. And this statement says, reads, nothing on the opposite side of this paper is true. And I might have messed up that one. That one said reads nothing too. So nothing on the opposite side of this paper is true. So if you look at the opposite side of the paper, nothing over here is true. And that's exactly right. Because this side says that everything over here is true. And this side says there's nothing over here is true. So now you see the stay right there, Bassett, please. The 2 statements that they originally have, everything on the other side of this paper is false, and everything on the other side of this paper is true. That duality, or binary looking at things, is not adequate or sufficient enough to actually answer the question. There's not enough information contained in there to actually answer the question. But once we acquire this additional information, the false negative and the false positive on each side, Now we are dealing with new and odd numbers. You are seeing or witnessing the processing and the application and utilization of new and on in a linguistic paradigm or paradox in order to solve that riddle. That's what you're watching. But the only way to understand all of that is to learn about the numbers new and on. At first, it'll appear that it's been two numbers generated from nothing. But we've discussed that nothing is a concept. That's exactly why we wrote nothing here. Because nothing, like everything, are not numbers. So that's why we said there is nothing on the other side of the paper. There is nothing on the other side of the paper. Because these are concepts. But if you take them in the human mind can perceive that. A computer could never perceive the concept of nothing or everything. Computers can't perceive that. Computers can't account for what you would call nothing or everything. So there's no concept of infinity or nothingness in a computer because a computer cannot comprehend and will not comprehend those concepts, not as mathematics. The computer is a mathematical machine. A calculator is a mathematical machine. Therefore, they will never attempt to comprehend something that's totally rhetoric or theory and totally based around conjecture and hypothesis. And that's not to put the mathematical world down. That's just to show that we have a lot of things to offer the world. And given the opportunity, we can change the world. So, yeah, it's December 1st. So you have to understand, it's a lot of stuff, and I'll say December 2nd. Yeah, because that's my brother's birthday. Happy birthday. See, throw. You already know. So now, I don't have Bastet here right now, but that's the basis and the premise of what we're saying about the paradox. We are going to solve this paradox. We will solve this paradox. But this is the basis and the premise of understanding this paradox. Now, we can close ours if y'all want, and we can move straight to what they have, and we can solve it with just what they have, knowing what we know now about false negatives and false positives, and true negatives and true positives. So now, we'll start with what we started with. Everything on the other side of this paper is true. So let's establish that whoever is speaking here, now let's establish that there's a speaker here, that somebody wrote this. Everything on the other side of this paper is true. Now, we don't have to assume a thing. Everything on the other side of this paper is true. Now, let's turn the paper around and see if that's a fact. Everything on the other side of this paper is false. You see that? Let's do that again. Because that would make the statement from the start already true. Because the person that said everything on the other side is true, put true on that side. And the person that said everything on the other side is false, made the other side false. You see this? So everything on the other side of this paper is true. Let's turn it over. Let's see if that's true. It's true. It's true. Everything on the other side of this paper is true. Because the person spoke true on the other side of this paper. Despite what's happening up here, everything on the other side of this paper is true. Because watch this. Everything on the other side of this paper is false. Let's check that. Let's check it. When we turn it over, that person spoke false on that side. So this paradigm or paradox is solved, and it is solved by its own non-complexity, because the statement itself made the paradox true and false. And not at the same time, but true on one side and false on the other, clearly. Because everything on the other side of this paper is true. And when I turn this paper over, everything over here is true. Everything over here is true, including the statement, everything on the other side of this paper is false. That's a true statement. Everything on the other side of this paper is false. Just because it ends in the word false does not make it not be true. The statement on this side of the paper is true because it states that everything on the other side of the paper is false. And when we turn the paper over, everything on the other side of this paper is false. Because this person states that everything on this side of the paper is false. They're willing to agree with you. This statement agrees that everything on this side of the paper is false. Read it again. Everything on the other side of this paper is true. So if everything on the other side of this paper is true, then nothing on this side of the paper could be true. So this side is false, and this side is true. That's a mathematical session with best, stats, and best. We saw one of the greatest riddles and paradoxes that's been known in all of mathematics in a few minutes or so. And this is a part of what we call the meat confounding the wise. This is a part of using applying and using the numbers nu and un. Because at first we have one sheet of paper. That's our singularity. The one sheet of paper is our singularity. That's why this has to be taught to your children. It's a way of thinking. It's a way of looking at things and objects before you ever even examine. Most of the problems that they have in school now are word problems for this reason. All of the Common Core, all of the STEM problems are mainly word problems. So if you're not a linguist or linguistically inclined along with your mathematics, then you'll still have problems in mathematics. If you read the rhyme papyrus, what they call the rhyme papyrus, which is really the IAML papyrus, you will find out that this is the truth. So you have this single sheet of paper, which is one. This represents nu in a child's mind once they know about nu. And this one side of the paper and the other side of the paper would represent zero nu. See? So you get nu, 0, and 1. Nu, 0, and 1. Like that. So then you move from a polarity to a dipolarity. And from there, you move from a polarity to a dipolarity to a bipolarity. One. And this is quantum processing. So once again, I think I pulled up something here. Hold on one second. Okay, yeah. So once again, we'll read this statement again. That everything on the other side of this paper is false. Everything on the other side of this paper is false. So that means that everything on this side of the paper is true. If everything on the other side of this paper is false, then everything on this side of this paper is true. And that's exactly what it is. Everything over here is false. Because this person states everything on the other side of this paper is true. And when we look over there, everything over here is true. No more paradox. We solved one of the greatest riddles in mathematics. So this is what we want to present to our people, and we would like for you all to subscribe to, if you will, the same way YouTube asks you to subscribe to. We're asking you to subscribe to. We would like to have a YouTube channel, which we have. It's called New University TV. And we work diligently on uploading the previous Shadow Hours video over there, and we could not get it completely done, but we did get it started. We got it up to 21% upload.
Yeah.
So we know how to do it now, so we're gonna get it done. Let me see something. So if there are any questions, y'all please let me know. If you have any questions, that's it. Will you do me a favor? Will you open up that page so I can look at that stuff on the phone?
Okay.
Yeah.
What we have here? What we have there?
Yeah. So I can see this chat.
Okay.
So
Stay tuned for tomorrow.
yeah. Stay tuned for tomorrow. Come back for in the new day where we'll be talking more mathematics. I wanted to bring that paradigm forth and that paradox forth because we had mentioned the other paradoxes. We had mentioned the one where can God lift a stone? Can a God create a stone that a God can't lift? And we made a metaphor last shadow hour of it. We said if we wrote if a God, let's do us a female God. Let's do us a female God. Goddess, yeah, female God. Let's do us a female God. And then if she made a stone or created a stone, and we don't really subscribe to the word creation. We know creation is growth. So if the goddess grew a stone that she could not lift, is that a possibility? Is it a possibility that God could create something that God could not lift? A goddess can create something that she cannot lift. Now, let's take the God and goddess out of here, and let's relate this to the harlot of Babylon. Let's say that. Can the harlot of Babylon and the beast create a stone that humanity can't lift? And we related that to two things. We related it to error correction. We related it to error correction and limit expansion. And we said because a computer cannot divide by zero without error, and a computer can't divide any number n by zero without error. And thus, these remain undefined or indeterminate in mathematics. They remain undefined are indeterminate in mathematics. So therefore, if they're undefined and indeterminate, then the answers remain unknown. The answers remain unknown. So then we related it to limit expansion. And limit expansion, we were explaining that because your computer can't divide by 0 as a denominator, then its limitation is limited in how far it can go to the right or to the left. Meaning -4, -3, -2, -1, and then 0, and then new, and then 0, and then 1, 2, 3, 4. And when you in your computer, it will register 5, -5, -4, -3, -2, -1, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, +5. That's what your computer, that's what you would read. But this would be what it is. So this limitation here, this limit expansion, when you count over to 0, you can't go past 1. There is a pole or singularity at 1. Now, in normal mathematics talk, the word singularity, I know a lot of people throw it around like it's a big word, but in all actuality, the word singularity and pole represents something that they don't know. It represents something that's chaotic or erratic, an enigma, if you will. So this limit expansion it is directly related to the inability to calculate beyond that number, and the inability. So not only is it a graph problem, a number line problem, but it's also a graph problem. So if we were to create a graph and we were to create x-axis, this is the x because the woman is always laying down. Pete the Egyptian scientist, Gab, is laying down. And the y is up there, patriarchal. We'll just go along with it. So we have the y up here, and the y-axis will be here. So then if we wrote the numbers 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then we get to 0, we have new right here. We get to 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So if you have your number line on this same graph, on this same axis, let's see how it'll look. And let's erase this 5. We went to quantum, so we'll stay at quantum. So on your number line, it will read 5, 4, 3, and I won't say your number line, on the ordinary number line, the common number line, 2, 1, and you will have a 0 at the axis, at the pole. But clearly, if this is 0, then this space right here is the same distance as this space. And the same distance as this space, the same distance as this space, and the same distance as this space. So this space is a number. Now, what number is it? They don't know. So now, when we come on this side, we'll have -1, -2, -3, -4. So you can see here how we arrive at a problem using the basic number line. Just a simple, the naive. This is the naive number line. That's a real mathematical terminology. Naive. Naive number line. Just like Eve in the Bible, naive, being deceived. Eve is even and Adam is odd. God is odd and the devil is even. You see that? That's how it plays into a linguistic paradigm. So we see here that we run into a problem with a zero at the pole. Now we either have to admit that zero is a number and it has to be counted as a sum, and we have to determine what that sum is. We can't just say that zero is a number on the pole and not determine what the weight, density, mass, shape, form, color, what zero is. This is mathematics. We have to show and prove what zero is. And so this is an issue in mathematics. It deals with, once again, what they call the Zeta Function or the Riemann Zeta Function. It deals with prime numbers and the counting of prime numbers, the ability to measure prime numbers. It deals with Fibonacci, because as we showed last shadow hour, and what you have to keep in mind is that this Fibonacci thing that they call Fibonacci is found in everything in nature. I don't subscribe to the Parthenon talk and all the findings all in Greece and all the pictures and paintings, but I will tell you that it's found in nature. I don't subscribe to sacred geometry. I don't subscribe to isosophy, sacred geometry. No, not me. Numerology? No, not me. Isosophy from Greece? No, not me. Abjad from the Arabians? No, not me. And I won't subscribe to gematria. No, not me. We as Nubian people, we don't subscribe to these because these are not mathematics. This we would consider an occult science. And there's nothing wrong with this and people doing this and practicing this. I don't want to make it seem like I'm putting any of the brothers and sisters within my own community down for practicing this. But I do want them to come on over to the Supreme Mathematics so we can show some things even within these sciences that need to be revealed. Especially when it comes to things like prenatal charts, birth mapping, when actually what you call zodiacology and astrology and astronomy are really astrobiology. None of those really exist. We really study astrobiology. So as a people, we start to study our biology through the stars because we know that's where we came from. So if we're going to do that, then we got to have the correct information and the correct mathematics in order to do that. That's all I'm saying. I would like to address the dates, the calendars, and the different things like that that's being used, and the mathematics don't add up, and people's souls are at stake. People are, actually spending money for these things. So, and we might as well have it right and do it right if we're going to do it at all. If we're going to do it at all, if we're going to feed people those things, we should do it right. And if we know somebody with the right information, we should go to that somebody with the right information and say, hey, bro, what's the deal? I heard you know about, mathematics that can help with the sciences and what we're dealing with as far as astrology and astronomy and zodiacology and all the things we deal with in occult science and sacred geometry. I heard you know some things about that. Then we could build on it, and that'll be great. I love that. So then we get back to this graph line. So we see the obvious mistake. So 0 has to be something. So at this point, we can look right above 0, and we can see this outstanding number right here, nu. And that's the number. That's what the pole is equal to. The pole is equal to nu. So nu would take that place. So now you have a complete graph and a complete number line. So when we say, can God or the harlot of Babylon build make a stone that she can't lift, we say, yeah, it's binary computing, zeros and ones. It's binary, and it's primary. Without 0, without 1, it starts at 2, 3, 5, 7. Primary. Prime numbers. So the fact that we have computers encoded with binary and primary prime numbers, the fact that we have those encoded into a computer, and the fact that nobody can uncrypt them or decrypt them once they have been encrypted, what this means, it's something that you have to really look at in a way. What this really is saying to humanity and technology is that internet security and internet and online protection over the World Wide Web is brought about by these binary and primary zeros and ones and prime numbers. That encrypted brings together the security that humanity and technology rest upon. However, behind that are the substantial reality. The substantial reality of that is that on the surface, it just looks like it's a problem that humanity and technology can solve. That's what it looked like. But on the surface, that's what it looked like. But if we were to look between that paradigm and we were to turn that 3D, like the hieroglyphs, and we were to look between that, we would see the fine print that tells us, it tells us what? It tells us that humanity and society cannot solve a problem. They have built the rock that they can't lift. That's what it begins to tell us. But then, beneath that, down here, beneath that, beneath all that, is another truth. And that truth is that internet protection or online security over the World Wide Web is built on the disability of humanity and technology. It's built on the disability of humanity and technology. In other words, by having the ability to encrypt crimes, they found a disability in which humans could not decrypt crimes. Thus, humanity's security and protection is built on its inability and disability. And that's the rock that the harlot of Babylon made, that the harlot of Babylon can't lift. This is part of the secret, if you will, using parables and metaphors, that the harlot of Babylon holds. This is part of the mystery that's supposed to be revealed in the book of Revelation. This is part of that secret mystery that the beast holds
for the harlot of Babylon. The beast holds a secret for the harlot of Babylon. She rides on the beast, and the beast holds a secret. The 7 heads and 10 horns holds a secret that the harlot has. They hold it for, and they protect this secret. And this secret is this. So now, there's nothing to be afraid of. If God can lift that rock, if back to the goddess that created this rock can lift that rock. The goddess that created that rock knows that that rock is composed of zeros and ones. It's particles and waves. It's bits and pieces. So the rock can be broken, first of all, and picked up, cleaned up. Second of all, the rock will only serve as the next generation of computers. That's what the rock represents. This rock right here, it represents the next generation of quantum computers. So anybody that's afraid to pick up the rock or unable to pick up the rock are preventing us from picking up the rock, is preventing us from the next level, the next dimension, the next plane, the next era of quantum processing and quantum computing, quantum thinking, tetrahedral thinking. We'll be missing out on that. So a real goddess, M.A.A.T, is not afraid to lift this rock, because this rock represents the new era. It represents the time where we'll have new thinking. It doesn't mean because we come up with the answers to what we already have here that we've reached the height of knowledge. By far, we have not reached anything. We don't reach anything. We merely aim. All we need is correct and right direction, right guidance. You see? Guidance. And then once we have right guidance, we can aim in the right direction. There is no goal. There really is no mission. It's only purpose. You see? So, and this error correction, you got me listening to me.
I know, but I'm trying to turn it off right here.
Oh, okay. So error correction, will you bring me some water, please?
Yes, no.
So error correction, 0 divided by 0 equals error. We corrected that error last shadow hour. We wrote that the thinking goddess knows that 0 divided by 0 equals new. So the error in 0 divided by 0 has now just been corrected. This leads to new math. This leads to new math. This leads to a new dimension. This leads to a new way of thinking already. So the thinking goddess knows that n divided by 0 equals 0 n. And that number is called un. Like this number is called new. So new, let me do this. So new and un. So this paradox, or this paradigm, or this rock has already been broken up into pieces. Because now we know how to deal with the rock. Right now, we know exactly how to deal with the rock. We have the answers to the rock. So now, our next goal is to figure the limitations on and of the expansion of the computer by understanding binary, Evidently. Thank you. So our next step is to figure this limit expansion and understand binary numbers. Our understanding of binary numbers is hidden right here in this number line, in that graph line. If you look closely, you'll see that the binary numbers, let's move this limit line, let's move this line. They call that line right there, that I have wrote right there, in mathematics, they call that the pole or the singularity. They call this line halfway between there, this little dotted line halfway between there, they call that the critical line that all the zeros fall on in the Riemann hypothesis. In other words, when you're counting, all of the numbers should dissolve into zero right here. They should dissolve into zero right there and fall on that center dotted line. Everything that you add, or everything that you minus, alienate, add, or multiply, or times, everything that you perform an order of operation on, it dissolves along this line right here into zero. But last shadow hour, we proved that if we were to count the even numbers, 4, 2, 0, 2, 4, we would be good. But if we went odd, 5, 3, 1, -1, 3, 5, obviously these odd numbers did not dissolve into any zero right here. In fact, 0 is here and not halfway between here. So the understanding of this right here would lead you to understanding that the number halfway between here is this number here. Is that number there? Represents the number halfway between 1 and 0 on your number line, but halfway between 0 and new on the new number line. So this number would be the number that all numbers dissolve into. And the reason you know that is because any number you divide by 0 equals an odd number. Any number you divide by 0 equals an odd number. So our understanding of binary numbers is going to empower us to reprogram our computers in a new way using the numbers nu and on and the extra dimensional space and time, energy and matter that's involved in the numbers nu and on. Okay? And the same thing applies to the prime numbers. And the reason why we're not giving a formula for those, because those are what we call intellectual property. That's what we call what we want to license and publish, if you will, publish and license. So if you're out there and you care, help us out. We need lots and lots of people to help us out. And don't think that other people are helping us out, because we've received very little help and we need a lot of help from the Nubian community. I don't know why we haven't been called on any forums or any,
or
invited to any programs or to teach anywhere or to bring this mathematics to your neck of the woods, if you will.
Right.
And to bring indigenous mathematics to your people.
Yeah, and we've knocked on doors.
Come over, baby. Please say it.
We've knocked on doors and
you talk. I'll drink some water.
Yeah, it's hard for anybody to really accept and take to this new mathematical system, because we've been working on the old system for ages, and at first glance it looks like it's really nothing. It's really not getting that far, but in reality everything stems from the seed. the seed of the tree. So we never know what the apples are gonna look like in the
That's right.
future. We just have to make sure that the seed is well taken care of. It gets enough sun, water, and this is what we're doing. We're planting the seed right now. So yes, please do support. We got great things coming up for y'all.
Yeah.
So these things are very high level things, but this is the things that your children are going to have to know at the start in order to even start using and applying new mathematics. So even though it's at the height of mathematics now, just think on what we're saying. Even though we're solving the greatest problems in mathematics right now, at the height of mathematics, this is in turn going to be the very foundation, the floor of mathematics once we get started. So it's just the beginning of the new mathematics. So that's both paradoxes. Again, that was one last shadow hour. We went over it again this shadow hour, which I'm glad of. And we were able to discuss the paradox of true and false. So we were very happy to present this one because this has been one that has struck many minds for a long time. If you want, you can YouTube it, you can Google it, you can look up number file, and you can look up paradoxes, and they'll talk about this paradox. They'll tell you about the liar's paradox and the paradoxes of Kurt Gödel and all the other mathematicians around that time. Who was it? Einstein and
Yeah.
I don't dwell on those people. I don't dwell on their names because I really don't get into it. I really don't even like using words like Fibonacci and Pythagoras because those are not their mathematics. Those people were taught in places like Egypt and Algeria, and they brought the sciences from over there. And the whole thing, like I was touched on a little bit last shadow hour, is that the whole thing has really become unfair in a way as far as racism, because they'll say that mathematics was the number zero in mathematics was Arabic, and then they'll always refer to the Greeks, Pythagoras, Archimedes, so on and so forth for geometry, and then they'll always refer to the mostly the Arab names and Al-Khwarizmi and so on and so forth, and give them credit for coming up with names like algorithm and different things like that. And then they'll move on and they'll say that certain Hindu people started mathematics too as well and invented the number zero, and they'll take you to a temple or a Hindu building and they'll show you the cipher on the wall and they'll say this is the first recording of the number zero. And then you can go right to Sumer in the heart of Babylon, and you could find the use of the number zero, although it wasn't written as a number. So in other words, if a Sumerian wrote the number zero, the Sumerian would write the number zero like this. Let's just say it'll be a wedge, and then it'll be a space, and it'll be a wedge or a line. But there will be a space here. And in this space, that would be equivalent to the number zero. So the Sumerians didn't have to write the cipher. They were fully aware of the number zero. So it's kind of naive. It is naive to say, mathematically naive to say, that the zero was discovered anywhere when you can find the zero in Sumer in its proper context. And that's how the confusion started in the first place. Remember the Tower of Babel. That's how the confusion started in the first place. because people didn't comprehend the number 0. And when they didn't comprehend the number 0, they came up with a concept of nothing since the space was empty. They didn't know that that was a number and it represented a space. So then they came up with what they call the number 10, or a binary digit, a dual digit like the number 10, and they'll tell you that the number 10, 0, is a placeholder, but it has no value. It's a placeholder, but it has no place value. But later on, when we get done with this mathematics, you'll see that if you put 10 on one end of the number line and you count it this way, you would arrive at new. And if you put negative 10 on this side of the number line and came this way converging, you would still arrive at new. But also, you would arrive at a 0. Also here, you would arrive at a 0. So on both sides, you would converge towards a number called on. And that would be the 0 where everything would dissolve into. On this side of the convergence or on this side of the convergence. And the way you know that 0 is something is because we can analytically continue this from 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, new, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We can go straight across here mathematically without missing a beat. Aesthetically beautiful. Continue that without missing a beat. So what this explains is that this number halfway between new and 0 or 0 and 1 is really this number on. And this number has a place on your number line now. This number has now been put in your number line. Please sit down. And so then that number represents a half. It represents a fractal. And the way it operates, it represents a half. It represents half of anything that is operated against, if you will. This will be explained later, but it represents a half number. So that number on is a very important number. It's the transition from real numbers into fractions. This is one of the reasons why all people believe numbers had a fractional root, or all numbers came from fractions. Look that up. So these are the keys to your children and your family learning mathematics. I think on that note, we'll end.
Absolutely.
Peace, family.
Peace, family.
We love y'all.
Love y'all. Good night.
Tov Le'u. Good shadow hours.